Dear students, dear explorers of literature, I, Rama Hirawat from St. Xavier's College, Jaipur, is going to talk to you about the origins of American literature. We are all familiar with various kinds of literatures, but the context of all the literatures is very different. So to understand that context, we must know the socio-political history of that land. America was considered the Edenic lands. Christopher Columbus in 1492 discovered America under the patronage of Ferdinand II of Spain. He assumed that he had arrived at the continent of India, so he named the people as Indians. In his letters to his masters, the description that he used for Americans is worth noting. He said, "They are people without any religion. They are inoffensive, unwarlike, and without the knowledge of iniquity." And he added that they were nevertheless strangers to the blessings of religion. As such, he advised his royal masters to adopt, to resolve, to change them all to Christianity in order to benefit them. The discovery of an unexplored, strange land with diverse geographical features, showered with nature's bounty, and as such, place that could be made habitable, framed all discourses of America's existence as a new heaven, a new land, the Eden, the lost Eden, Eden that was lost to the Christians. This is actually a religious enveloping of a colonial enterprise. To look at the unexplored land as the original state of mankind, Edenic, is to give a religious color to a project of power and greed. It was simply a new land which they could exploit and establish their sovereignty over and pull into bondages, just a different form of slavery by giving a religious mapping to their ideas of exploitation. Settlers referred to it, the original settlers referred to it as a virgin country, the Spanish settlers. Though before Christopher Columbus, almost 5 centuries before that, Vikings, they did visit North America. This invented America. Now this America, I'm calling it not discovered America, but rather invented America, because though they discovered the land, they actually invented the whole narrative of what America was. It was an attempt to obliterate the history of the original dwellers who had American lives long before the European came. There were multiple tribes, but somehow their existence was pushed under the carpet. Thus, the discovery and inquest of America was a political economic project framed as a religious one, and to make it civilized and Christian, that is, to govern it, to tame it, as white was another white man's burden. It was a religious responsibility of the European settlers. Now, for this strategy, the imperial project, they termed it was conversion, comparison, and familiarizing the whole place. That's why they called it virgin country. And later on, when European settlers, when British settlers went there, they called it Jamestown. Now let us look at the American literature. First, we are going to look at American literature before the colonizers came. Before the settlers came, there were more than 10 million Native Americans speaking more than 350 languages. Now, the languages that time, it was basically in form of orature. The Aboriginal people wrote, they discussed multiple narratives, which we are now following as it is now transcribed and given a textualized form. Though we must admit that much is lost in translation when we are trying to put an orature, a narrative, an oral story into written format. The recurrent theme of literature of that time were stories of world creation, myths of origin, the evolution of the world, the suns, moons, and the various galaxial elements. There were tales of human and cultural emergence, and they were constantly talking about rituals and resources such as corn, buffalo, horses, salt, tobacco, peyote. They were all vital to the tribes of America. Now, this is something really interesting. When we look at the legends of cultural heroes, we can also think about the contemporary narratives of superheroes in America when we think of characters like Spider-Man, because they have been very relatable to the ethnic people of America. Now, sometimes related to history, such as Hirawat, sometimes purely mythical recurring figures of twin brothers. And not unrelated to this is the stories of tricksters, which are very popular. Con stories are very popular even in modern American cinema, such as Coyote, Rabbit, and the Spider-Man. These strategies, the survival strategies, were all about courage and cunning. They are by no means mutually exclusive, and of course, this is often why the Native American hero is also a trickster. They are invariable tales of love and war, animals and spirits, mythic versions of a particular tribal history, and mythical explanations of the geography and the place where the tribe now lives. So we can see how those narratives are technically related to the present day narratives. They are in some form adapted to modern sensibilities. Let us look at the English settlers in America. In May 1607, the map you can see here is the colonial map. The original 13 colonies are being reflected here. So in 1607, Jamestown Colony, Virginia, became the first permanent English settlement in North America. The colony gave England its first foothold in the European competition. Before them, obviously, Spain and Portugal had a hold over America. Now, the major writers belonging to that early age of settlings were Richard Hakluyt, William Crawshaw, and they all discussed about the plantations, the fertility of the land, the vast resources of America, and somehow it made the whole place very interesting and attractive for the people of Europe. Richard Hakluyt believed that Virginia could be the solution to England's growing population and poverty, and somehow people could be migrated from Europe to America. William Crawshaw, he compared Virginia to the promised land. So obviously the whole narrative of the promised land and the Edenic land makes them, it makes them their rightful claim over America. So they were no longer questioning that how they were suppressing the original dwellers. They were simply thinking that this was their rightful claim. They had this moral duty to take hold of that place. Captain John Smith, another very particular writer, he wrote wonderful books, travel books, and pamphleteers on the same. Life for settlers, especially the indentured laborers, was a difficult one, and they were brought by force to America, most of them from Africa. We are all familiar with the ideas of slavery and how it began. Let us look at the Puritan narratives, which came as a natural natural conclusion to the Puritan settlers. During 1620 to 40, many Puritan separatists migrated to America in search for freedom to practice their religion. So this is one of the reason that we see America as a Puritan nation, or a nation based on Puritan ideologies of hard work, simplicity, and it also gives thrust to the idea of American dream, that you can achieve anything with your hard work no matter what your status in life is. Settlers like Bradford, who was writer of Plymouth Plantations, America was no blessed garden originally, but the civilizing mission that his colony was precisely making it, to turn it into an evidence of their election and God's infinite power and benevolence. So look at the religious coloring given to this colonial exploitation. Puritan narratives gave some very significant trends and themes to America, as I just mentioned, that it was the reason, it was the crux behind American dream, which was later carried on forward, and the shattering of American dream also became a prominent idea, prominent conflict zone in American literature. A habit of interpreting events that with the help of providence is very famous in American literature. All we need to do is look at writers like Nathaniel Hawthorne with his Scarlet Letter, that how he talked about the providential reason behind everything that happened to Hester Prynne and her fellow counterparts. It also dramatizes the pursuit of dream. It reveals the central paradox in the literature of immigration that material success leads to spiritual failure. In our next lecture, we'll know more about the challenges to the puritanical setup in America. Thank you.